Good evening, comrades. It's Calls, Clan War Strategist. I'm going to go a little off script from the traditional videos I've done in Jungle Heat, and we're going to go back to Notepad. We're going to go to the chalkboard, and I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk offensive strategies in what most may consider to be a very significant clan war that we're about to go on against title holders. And so I decided to outline a couple things that I don't expect you to memorize, but something that you may want to consider as you're assessing the enemy that you may be up against. We're not going to be employing a mirror strategy. I can assure you we're going to do this thing from the top up, and what I mean is we're going to go from right to left. So we'll start with the CC9s and 10s and 11s, and I want you to take this into consideration because I can't gauge what you all have in terms of your attack capabilities, but what I can impart to you are some opportunities, some strategies, some options to consider. And so without further ado, I'd like to start with the first with airstrikes, because that's been a thematic element on every single one of my videos. I almost always advocate that you airstrike certain targets, and I came to the horrifying realization that the bronze airstrike monument maxed out is far superior than the golden airstrike monument. In fact, so much so I actually created a ticket. I believe it is bugged. The golden airstrike monument is supposed to combine the capabilities of both the bronze and the silver. So the bronze is airstrike range and the silver is airstrike damage, and golden is supposed to combine the two, but unfortunately when I obtained the golden airstrike monument and got it up to the point where its range was maxed out and the damage was respectable, I was not seeing the throughput on the range. So we'll see what the senior technician has to say in the next couple of days. If you have the bronze airstrike monument maxed out, please keep that. I believe it is far superior. So going back to the airstrike preference, what do you do? Well, it depends. It kind of depends on a couple factors. What are you running? Do you have extra range? Do you have extra damage? Both or none? And then the other three things that you want to take into consideration is the base you're going up against. Are they running an HP shield generator on their ions? I guarantee you title holders is probably doing that for every single one of their bases. Do they have defensive building HP monuments? Some do, some do not. And we've scouted most of their bases and we can tell you which ones they are. And you'll get to that in the briefing. Are they running active defensive blueprints? This is the hard question because we're not going to know that until we actually attack. And that's part of the reason why we're setting up recons with some of our lower players, our CC9s and 10s that are absolutely fantastic players that contribute so much to the clan, but they are in the unenviable position of being able to contribute only in the matter of being able to reconnoiter the CC11s that may or may not be running the defensive blueprints that will make and break a potential 3-star. So if you're one of those CC9s and CC10s, I absolutely think you are an integral part of the solution, and so take pride in being able to provide that kind of intelligence, because there is an actual vested kinetic effect that can be employed by our CC11s and being able to take that down. And if you doubt me, I recommend you to watch my attack on VOV from Mother Russia. That was absolutely instrumental, and I owe every credit to Donuts from Dunk's secondary account, because he was the one who actually made that attack possible. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just check out that video. Let's go down to D. So let's suppose, for instance, that it's in your favor to do airstrike. The preference is as follows. We have to take out ion stations. Every single one of the bases that we're going up against will have ion stations. If you can catch the clan HQ, that's awesome. That's a bonus. Most will not permit you to be able to get a 2-for-1 in that regard. Then you're going to go for freeze round spiders and then all others. So one of the things I want to emphasize is please be patient, because if you're running a Vortex game, you're going to run out of your heroes and you're going to run out of your troops before you run out of time, especially against title holders. Okay, so be patient. Try to catch those heroes. Try to catch bunker units, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the next section. And I already emphasized about bronze airstrikes are better than golden airstrike monument, so please keep that in mind. So let's transition to bunkers. Now, what should you do? Well, again, it depends. Traditional bunkers, just ignore them. You're just going to have to accept that all of the traditional bunkers are going to be max level. So they're going to have pyros and they'll do some damage, but you're just going to have to accept it. The special bunkers are a different case though. The special bunkers do significantly more damage because they're Moseys instead of Pyros. So if they're running with special bunkers, if they are within range that you can spawn them with bombs, then I have kind of a saying that I colloquially made up. It's called aggro, kite, then airstrike. So aggro is the procedure of dropping bombs, which are the units that are going to go towards the walls nearest to the special bunker, and generally the bombs will trigger aggro on the special bunkers and cause them to spawn. Kiting is the method of dropping an expendable troop in a manner such that the Moseys will then traverse towards the attacking troop that puts them within range to be taken out by airstrikes. And the airstrikes could be targeted against ions or other key structures. But basically what you want to do is you kind of want to move those Moseys into position where you can take them out. And that will save you from having to accrue or incur a tremendous amount of damage. So if they're not within range though, if the special bunkers, if they exist, and they will be prevalent throughout most of these bases, if they're not within range that you can aggro them, you're just going to ignore them. Going down to number 3, what is your troop composition? You need a minimum of 8 vortexes and you need a minimum of 5 bombers. So that gives you a little bit of leeway and flexibility. So if you're going to run with bombers, that gives you some leeway to run with sappers. That gives you some leeway to run with an invader, or the most common strat that I've come across in skirmishes, at least the last 10 that I've participated in, has been 8 vortex and 20 bombers, and they've been highly effective, especially when you combine them with high level heroes. I've seen some of the most impenetrable bases fall to a 8 vortex 20 bomber strat. Pyros sometimes are included in that so that they can peel away layer 1, but almost inevitably your invaders are going to die, your sappers will always die, and your pyros will almost always die. I've never seen an attack where a vortex strat, including a pyro invader or sapper, ever had anything left over at the end of the attack other than just straight vortex and heroes if they were deployed later on. So clan troops, same thing. Use a vortex and player preference. Some people are talented at utilizing the Colossus, and that's okay too. I don't have enough experience to vouch for that. I just know that one of the most common clan troop compositions include vortex and player preference, so that could either be bombers or Mosey. So, number 4, are you using sappers? Let me tell you something. Do not deploy them until after the bunker strat. And what I mean by the bunker strat, reference number 2. What should you do? It depends. Okay, do you need to destroy the clan HQ full of troops? Sappers may spawn clan HQs. If they do, you're absolutely screwed, because the HP on the units that reside within the clan HQ are far superior than the headquarters itself. Obviously, once you destroy the clan headquarters, you don't have to worry about the troops, and that's part of the reason why they're number 2, second only to the ion station. Okay? So don't deploy them until after you've done the preliminary airstrike and bunker strat. That's number 1 thing. Sapper should be the absolute last thing you do before you drop any primary troops. Okay? So number 5, if you can't take down the ion station because of some of the conditions in A, B, and C under number 1, what do you do? Okay, well, it kind of depends. If you're a lower level and you're dealing with a level 2 ion station because you're a CC 9 or 10, the ion station gets pissed off if one of 2 conditions are met. Either 4 heroes are deployed, which 100, which is the trigger mechanism from which an ion station starts to begin doing damage. 100 divided by 4 would suggest that heroes account for approximately 25 unit space, which is between vortex and iron storm. The other scenario is if you drop 4 vortexes. So what that means is you can get away with dropping 3 heroes or 3 vortex to start peeling away the layer to try and get you in a position to deploy the rest of your troops to try and take down the ion station. Now if you're dealing with a level 3, you can actually get away with 6 heroes. I'm skipping ahead of myself. You can get away with 6 heroes and peeling away layer 1, and the ion station will not get pissed off. The problem is the minute you deploy anything more, then the ion station is going to aggro, so you have some options. If you do the hero route, because you're going to try and peel away layer 1, you can drop a bomb or 2 and immediately trigger the first round of the ion station, which will likely trigger that of a hero, and then immediately full-blown drop all your vortexes, because you're going to have approximately 9 seconds of free time before the next round of the ion cannon goes off, the ion station goes off. Okay, Suppose you want to go the vortex route, the ion is going to begin firing on the 5th vortex. So you can get 4 vortexes deployed on the board. And I say vortex, no heroes. You can only do vortex or heroes. I did not go so far as to do the combination thereof of vortex and heroes. Pick one or the other. These are your options, and then from there, judge where you think you can get the best throughput. Okay, so there's alternatives, and you may also want to consider using a deactivation strat. I have seen some people that have been highly successful in timing when the ion station is projected to fire off, and they have about a half-second window to be able to drop a deactivation, which will stall and I believe thwart that round of the firing if they catch it between the initial burst and where it otherwise would land. So take that into consideration if you're feeling lucky. Okay, so again, D under section 5 is to utilize that advantage to peel layers needed to reach the ion station. And then again, once it begins firing, that's it. Game over. Deploy all troops. You have to take it down ASAP. Number 6 is called trace the line, and a lot of people are unfamiliar with this term, but what I mean by this, and I've discussed this in my proximity based aggro video, is you want to try and trace a line of if you were to deploy troops and you're dropping troops that are proximity based aggro, which the vortex follows, you want to try and readily predict which structures the vortex is going to follow. Now there's only 2 things that may disrupt that. The first are troops, whether it be heroes or bunker troops, because the vortex will immediately divert its attention to the attacking unit, which may pull it within layer 2 and towards the center. This is a good thing, even though they're going to accrue some damage. The other thing that I have noticed is that when the vortex becomes snared, either as a result of the barrier complex or freeze round spiders, that's the most common, sometimes the progressing unit, the lead element of the vortex, will continue to destroy whatever structures are on layer 1, and those that are snared after the structures are destroyed will change targets and go inward. So I'm confident that most of you have seen this phenomenon before, either in skirmishes or clan wars or perhaps just when you're doing PvP, cupping, etc. So pay attention to that. It might be an inadvertent advantage that you can utilize if your units get snared, because they may decide to go inward since the unit no longer is going after a structure that is closest to it, but one that is farther away. So seek out low-level structures. That's another thing that I highly recommend, whether it be rigs, mines, barracks, briefing centers, labs, workshops, huts, etc. These easily permit quick attacks, okay, as I indicated under 6C1. So know what you're up against, trace a line, try to readily predict the path that will allow you to get to the center of that juicy caramel bar, if you will. And I'm going to scroll down here so that we can get the last couple of things. Number 7, this is kind of something that I utilize on my skirmishes, and if I have an opportunity, actually, if you just review some of my skirmish videos, you will tend to see that I almost always use this in the middle to latter part of the game, and that's using my bombs to deploy traps and distract enemy defensive structures. A lot of times what I'll find is that watchtowers and cannons, especially your depth drones, they'll fire quite rapidly, either 1 second or less than a second apart, and sometimes that damage that they otherwise would be putting on your vortex can be something that you can save them from, especially if you're extremely talented. If you can trigger aggro on a cannon and a watchtower, which are typically paired together, and drop a bomb, the travel distance from the initial burst of the cannon alongside with the travel distance with the initial burst of the watchtower can sometimes kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So you can have double the damage of what otherwise would have been the cannon and the watchtower, which at a reasonably high level can be upwards to 150 to 200 damage, be triggered on a single bomb that has not near enough health. And that might be enough to buy your vortex just a single second, which can be the difference, because it only takes 2 rounds from a vortex to be able to take out a cannon and a watchtower, especially if it's a line of sight, or on the line, as Jungle Heat likes to put it. So take that into consideration. Your bombs can also deploy traps. The ones that you really want to watch out for are the big bada booms, not so much your man traps, certainly not so much the TNT, because the damage is negligible, and bombs aren't going to trigger your aerial traps, so your airship bombs, your air torpedoes, but it can help, and you just never know when that'll be the difference, especially against such a high level clan such as title holders. So let's go down to number 8. Don't fall for interior troop deployment traps. I have seen this typically in those bases that are not of the ilk of being in a top 10, top 5, or top 3 clan in Clan Wars. However, I have fallen victim to that. It's very tempting to try and drop all your troops because they have the max troop level deployment button to try and drop it in the interior, and they just scatter. So do things the old-fashioned way. Play conservative. If you find yourself in a position, please resist the temptation. Okay, typically if there's a top 10 base or a top 10 clan that does this, they know what they're doing. They've set up their base specifically to try and take advantage of that. And as tempting as it may be, you have to try and condition yourself mentally to accept the fact that it's likely too good to be true. Okay? So number 9 and number 10, don't forget your offensive blueprint and your monuments, and also don't forget to request clan troops. Okay, because we're here to help and we're going to work as a team. And the last thing is, hey, let's have fun. Okay, this is the drawdown of season 2. I've seen the clan make tremendous leaps and bounds in their capabilities, and this is not a test of our defensive capabilities because we've had all day to prepare for this. We've had all week to prepare for this. We knew coming into this that there may be the possibility that we would be paired up with title holders, and if title holders is watching, I'll throw some kudos out to them as well for an appreciation because they helped assist us on the latest clan tournament. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to it. I hope you all do too as well. So I'm going to push this to the YouTube, and you all take care, and please be sure to watch this from start to finish because there's a lot of great information, and in the next video I'm actually going to break down the basis on what we can expect on the upcoming clan war. So alright, more to follow. Take care.